I finished this documentary and I didn't feel informed or like ready to act. Instead, I kind of just felt hopeless. And when the subject is grown men selling broken masculinity to literal children, I just don't think hopelessness is a feeling we can afford to let remain. So this is not a recap. I'm not going to walk you through every scene, but I want to talk about why the final stretch of this film bothered me so much. Now, my husband and I watched this documentary, and he is not an online man. So he knew of the Manosphere of his youth. So more of like the vintage Jim Bro era. Which he was heavily in back then, but he had no idea, like, what it had evolved into. He, like most people, have heard of Andrew Tate, but they don't understand the cesspool that is just anyways. So I kept looking over at him, and he just sat there, like, slack jaw for, like, a good portion of it, just a good chunk of the time, a face of pure bafflement. And there is a scene where these 2 young guys, they were adults, they seemed like it to me, but they were young, and they come up to one of these influencers, I cannot remember which one it was, and they start completely fangirling. They're like, "You've changed my life. You're my role model. You made me so much more confident. I'm in the gym. I'm doing stuff with my body, and it's all thanks to you." And my husband said at that point, "That would have been me." And he meant it. So younger him, and I can say this because I know him, I know his story, was a hurt and insecure young man from a poor town surrounded by other hurt young men. And so he and his friends had gotten cheated on, I guess in high school, I don't know when. And so they got very bitter and they did the thing that the weird red pill incels do now. So he's like vintage. This is some vintage. Anyways, so they got bitter and they built a little system. Nobody is allowed to date, hooking up only. So being soft about a girl, it got you like shamed in his little friend circle. And if you got a girlfriend, then you're out of the group. Like legitimately, it was crazy. Do you want to know how the story ends? Years later, it came out that they were all secretly dating, all of them. They were all hiding girlfriends from each other like contraband. Insane. The whole friend group just embarrassingly imploded and collapsed underneath it. Grown men policing each other out of love and partnership, while every single one of them secretly wanted just that. This is what men are doing to themselves. They build prisons together and they call it brotherhood. My husband wasn't evil. My husband was young, ignorant, hurt, and looking for rules that made his pain make sense and that made his pain feel more powerful. Then I think about my children and what makes this content so disturbing to me as a mother is that I can see what would have to be destroyed inside of my kids for it to work. Kids start out really tender, girls and boys, and they grow into all kinds of different personalities. Regardless, they're always observing and they notice things and they care. And especially for little boys, I know that the world will try its damnedest to beat every bit of softness and sensitivity and empathy out of them. Like, I already know that. So what I'm damn sure not gonna do is hand the job over to a fucking podcast bro. Why would I wanna damage my kids? Their softness is not a defect. As a parent, I believe, again, former Christian, blah, blah, blah. I very much view my role as a parent as somebody who I am stewarding their personhood, not trying to sand down parts of them so that weird grifters on the internet would approve of them. Just so that these weirdos on the internet can feel powerful and like a prophet, like some freak prophet. Please make no mistake, that is what this content does. And that's what it's doing. It teaches boys what to admire, what to hate, who to blame, and what parts of themselves to kill off before anyone else can mock them for it. In my opinion, this is way beyond content. These people are breaking people's suns. And that right there is the thought I was sitting with as the documentary headed into its like final stretch. So I was activated. You know what I'm saying? Like I was feeling like motivated. I was doing like math in my head about like what it would do to and cost to like speak up about something like this. I already get a lot of red pill men comments on my videos as it is. So I'm like, could I handle what these people's audiences could potentially send to women who criticize them? And then the ending happened. I do want to be fair and say that I don't think it was a bad documentary overall. I just really didn't like the ending. This documentary got access that a lot of other journalists will likely never get. These men don't trust the media, like, at all. And Theroux got days with them. And for most of the runtime, Theroux's quiet style genuinely feels like it works because, again, these men, they just could not stop exposing themselves. There's one scene with Myron and the girlfriend sequence, and it is masterful. So Thoreau pushes past some lines when he's talking to Myron's girlfriend, some like obvious lines. Myron seems bothered, and the tension starts to spike. And so the second the girlfriend leaves the room, Thoreau instantly flips to apologetic. And so instantly he's like, "Oh my gosh, I hope I did not just make that awkward." And then suddenly Myron is comforting him. That is skillful interviewing. Credit where credit is due. That was amazing. So my critique is not that Louis Theroux is a bad journalist. My critique is that I just did not feel like the ending worked. And the way it didn't work, I think matters. So by the final stretch, the dynamic with HS Tiki Taki Harrison has completely flipped, as I mentioned. The man was openly using Thoreau as content. There are clips of Thoreau getting clowned all over his social medias. They're going viral on these men's platforms. They're being reposted, reacted to, spun. And every visit to Harrison's house, it escalates. So the first one is warm, and then the second one, he gets like the cold shoulder and the weird power play with the dirty video. And then the next time, he gets like a security escort in. So it's clear, and there's a very obvious point when Harrison goes from being nervous and feelings hurt to just completely comfortable. He's not worried about the documentary at all anymore. He's actually farming it. And Thoreau goes back anyways. So in this final confrontation, Thoreau presses him on his anti-Semitic rhetoric. Um, he has a lot of harmful rhetoric. So he gets pressed on the anti-Semitic rhetoric, which yes, press him on it, absolutely. But Tiki Taki is prepared and he flips it. He asks Thoreau essentially, okay, then is Israel committing a genocide? And Thoreau has nothing. He stammers, he goes quiet, and the documentary just leaves it there. So this loop gets opened and then it's like it's never closed. No answer in the moment. And as far as I registered, no voiceover, no reflection, no narrative framing afterwards. And sure, like, those are 2 very different things. Like, I don't like anti-Semitism. I also fucking hate genocide, and it's weird that so it's just like so it totally spirals, and then we roll into an update reel where every one of these men appears to be thriving, and that's the ending. A man who built a documentary about manipulative performers gets visibly outmaneuvered by one of them on camera, and the film closes on their victory lap. And look, I understand why the exchange is in the film. I'm glad it is. They should not have left it out. It had already been filmed and streamed and gone viral, so cutting it would have been shady as hell. But Theroux had final cut. He had every tool available to him to close that loop, to frame the moment, to name what had happened, to clarify his own anything. Literally just anything. Even one little honest line of, "At this point, I had completely lost control of the situation," would have at least been something. But instead, it just hangs there, like the Manosphere tentacles themselves. And I just feel like in that moment, any boy watching who was on the fence, Tiki Taki doesn't look pathetic anymore. He looks like he won because in that room, I mean, it just kind of feels like he did. And all that because you can't call a spade, a genocide, wild. But here is why it does matter beyond my personal annoyance. Remember where I was right before this. Remember, I was activated. I was thinking about boys and platforms and what I could do. And the ending took all of that and replaced it entirely. I mean, the thought afterwards is, wow, even this guy couldn't touch him. Sorry if you can hear the potty reminder alarm going off in the living room. Somebody will hear it eventually. But the ending did not make me think more about the manosphere. Instead, I found myself quite distracted and instead thinking about whether or not the documentary got outplayed. I mean, I didn't need a happy ending. I didn't need justice, you know, just wrapped up in a big, beautiful bow. I'm a grown woman, okay? I know how the world works, but what? I guess in my opinion, I think that works about serious, harmful systems do kind of owe their audience something. And I think that's clarity, maybe some urgency, but certainly not hopelessness. So instead, I felt distracted by a deep frustration at what I interpreted to be a complete fumble at the football line yard. At this, I don't know sports. Okay. And that's a problem. I just think this topic is too important to leave people feeling like scammers potentially won. So let's fix that right now in these last couple minutes. I just want to give you what I felt like the documentary did not, and that's what we can do with this. And so the first thing, I have some notes. The first thing is what we don't do. The answer is not harassment. Oh, God, don't be the freaking internet. It's not sending mobs after these men. That would be us becoming the thing we're critiquing, and honestly, I think they would freaking love it because it would feed into that persecution narrative that I think is one of the reasons why their fans stay so loyal. So, we don't wanna feed into that. But I do think we need a lot more opposing noise, like clear, consistent, probably boring, ethical opposition to these scams and to men that are selling broken masculinity to children. Because the documentary did succeed in proving at least one thing, and that's that there is nothing there. nothing. There's no coherent belief, there's no real strength. It is just performance, profit, and, like, insecurity, and they're all, like, stacked up on top of each other and wearing, like, a little trench coat. That's all it is. When you step back and you see it like that, you realize countering something hollow is very doable. So, practically, talk to the boys in your life early before algorithms start doing it, and especially once algorithms start doing it. And I'm not talking one big scary lecture, though I do play a lot of bell hooks in the car while my kids are in there, just because I think they might absorb some of it. But you don't have to do all of that. It doesn't need to be a big scary thing, but it should be an ongoing and normal conversation about what they're watching and who profits from it. That is so important. Media literacy is a survival skill, and we have to teach them and keep teaching them that. It's one of the most protective things for your kid to be able to stop and say, "What is this person selling?" Also, name scams as scams. I remember I'm not gonna say that, never mind. No, I will. I remember a season a while ago when I was around a family. I had a friend and she had a teenage daughter, and the teenage daughter was like a really big fan of a huge YouTuber at the time. Like she like called herself like the name and had like the hoodies and stuff. And I remember thinking that person is a piece of shit. I remember thinking that's a horrible person to look up to. But I didn't tell her that. And now everybody knows that's a terrible person to look up to. And I'm like, damn, I still probably should have said something back then. So name scams as scams, not controversial figures, not provocative voices, salesmen, affiliates with funnels. Use boring, accurate words. Because boring, accurate words, they take all the magic out of these weirdos that somehow has the kids distracted. These men run on, like, mystique, and the boring is, like, something that like kryptonite. It's like kryptonite, so be boring, use the real words. These men are salesmen. Make sure you're supporting and pointing to healthy sources, and role models of masculinity, whatever that looks like in your world. I think that's significant. These men don't get to just define masculinity by their terms because it's weird and it's fragile and it hinges on things that don't make sense, like don't do girly things. Like what the so when you see actual masculinity and strength in your life and around kids, make sure you point that out and you encourage those types of relationships. It's like surely you have a few normal men somewhere in your life. Just try to get them. Oops. Just try to get him around those guys more. Because there are a lot of people that say some wild things. There are a lot of people in my family that will, like, say some wild things about women or policies politics, and then think I'm gonna ever leave my kid with you? No. Okay, it's not happening. And then another big thing is that if you're the type of person to laugh stuff like this off, like when you hear it out and about, stop. Like, don't laugh it off. I'm not saying you have to go out and be a confrontational queen, but if someone says something that's not tasteful, that's literally hateful to like a people group or something, just be like, I don't like that. It's not hard. If this conversation left you feeling activated, but also like aware of how tired you are, I totally get that feeling. And I actually created like a whole little BuzzFeed style quiz called the Spark Diagnostic. And that's exactly what it's for. It's all about helping you find the things that are draining you so that you can get back to that spark you used to have to be able to raise hell about all this different stuff. So, if that's at all interesting to you, it is completely free. It's linked down below in the description. Thank you so much for overthinking this documentary with me today. Did you watch it? What did you think of it? This is, of course, just my opinion. Who am I? I would love to know what you thought. Also, if you made it this far, then you probably liked the video, and so you should go ahead and subscribe because this is a brand new channel, and if you don't subscribe, you may never see me again, and that would be really sad. So, now why don't you go do something kind for yourself, like take a nap. You deserve it.